Happy New Year and welcome to the first Straight Talk in 2023 with Eugene Chan. Our guest this evening is Dr. Y.K. Pang, the chairman of the Hong Kong Tourism Board. Dr. Pang has extensive experience in the commercial sector. He is Deputy Managing Director of Jardine Matheson Holdings Limited, a Fortune Global 500 company. He has also dedicated himself to public service and has been recognized by the Hong Kong SAR government for this. He currently chairs the Executive Committee of the Employers Federation of Hong Kong. This evening, our question to Dr. Pang is Hong Kong ready for the return of tourists? Welcome, YK.
Happy New Year, Eugene.
Thank you for coming. Well, a lot has happened in the last week. We read in the news that the mainland is set to open the borders by the January the 8th. This is a great topic to discuss for the first show because this is something that we've been waiting for, the relaxed epidemic measures both mainland and Hong Kong. But before we go there, can you tell us what are the current landscape for tourism in Hong Kong?
Well, tourism is actually a very important pillar of our economy. Although in GDP terms it accounts for only about 4.5%, that is a reflection of how the GDP calculations are made. But in reality and on the ground, it employs directly and indirectly up to about 800,000 people in Hong Kong. In the retail sector, in the dining sector, the hotels, the entire tourism sector. So a lot of families depend on tourism for their livelihood. Also, tourism is also something that is a part of Hong Kong's soul. People come to Hong Kong, visit Hong Kong, and understand our city.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of has told us why tourism is so important in Hong Kong. Apart from our livelihood, also this is what Hong Kong is about, isn't it? Services and businesses. In the last 3 years, we saw that the number of visitors' arrivals has plummeted from 55 million in 2019 to 3.6 million in 2020, and further to a mere 100,000 people in 2021. We know this is solely due to the COVID border restrictions. So now that this has removed, there's no reason why these figures will not bounce back. Do you agree?
I'm very confident that these figures will bounce back. Hong Kong has always been a magnet for people from all parts of Asia and all around the world, and I think we can regain that position again.
Would there be any unknowns that might have influences to happen in terms of pace?
Well, I think the pace, it will depend on many factors. It will depend on things like the availability of transportation. The airlines need to gear up. Our own tourism industry also needs to gear up. During these few years of the pandemic, many people have left the trade, found other jobs. So we need to bring back people into this industry and to regain our capacity to serve.
Right, YK, in our shows, if you've been watching, we have been talked about there have been a lot of geopolitical tensions over the last couple of years, and some countries have actually set entry restrictions or conditions to travelers from mainland, Hong Kong, Macau, pending, just waiting from this early announcement of we are relaxing the borders. So do you expect this to have any effect on the attractiveness of Hong Kong, because people worry that we are being infected, so to speak?
I think in the beginning, there will be visitors who are worried about this, and it's obviously a real concern for many people. But I think time will clearly tell people that Hong Kong is a safe place. We, in fact, have a lot of very strict hygiene measures in Hong Kong. In fact, the Tourism Board had worked with the trade to implement a lot of very strict hygiene control protocols for all of the people in the trade to tell our visitors that, in fact, Hong Kong is a very safe place and that you are not likely to get infected in Hong Kong.
Right, YK, I've also studied your website, saying that we see that if you look at the pre-COVID figures, we saw that almost 80% of our tourists are from mainland, and say more than half of the daily visitors make up majority of the visitors. So they are a very valuable asset to Hong Kong's tourism industry. But do you think this will sort of put all our eggs in one basket? Because the reason why I brought that up is DEB chairman Ms. Starry Lee has led 3 business delegations to visit 5 ASEAN countries, and it seems like they are quite responsive to their visits, and they also want to come to Hong Kong. So will the Tourism Board also consider putting some of our promotions to that part of the region? We
always have. In fact, we have offices set up in ASEAN countries and also all around the world. And we promote both tourists from all around the world as well as from the mainland. The reason the mainland accounts for such a large proportion of visitors is because we are just next door. The transportation links are so convenient. We have trains, we have ferries. You can basically walk across the border, and so that means that we are so available, and we are just connected to the mainland very directly. For the other countries, they need to come by air. So therefore, the number of flights, the air bridges, our airports and their airports all need to be connected together with enough flights for them to bring them here. But we are very confident that as the pandemic subsides and as people regain confidence to travel again, they will all want to come to Hong Kong and also through Hong Kong as a conduit into the Greater Bay Area.
Right. So, Chairman, we had touched on a snapshot on the current landscape. So, basically, you are very confident things will come back. And let's look at the probably predict the pace, because we have to being prepared. If you look at just past history, look at Hong Kong, when we see the border being open, you see a lot of people start to consider to travel, especially when it comes to 0+3, many friends or business associates start to travel. So, and actually, there's a travel website saying that there has been a surge of airlines from Hong Kong to mainland, increased by 500% as soon as mainland say that we will announce the rollback of the travel restrictions. So do you expect a rapid bounce back of inbound visitors to Hong Kong from mainland?
I think it will be a gradual bounce back. It won't be a V-shaped recovery. There are many reasons for that. I think, first of all, we are waiting still to hear from our Chief Secretary on what the measures would be in terms of the opening up of the border between Hong Kong and the mainland. I think also for our mainland friends, they also need time to re-establish their own travel patterns and to come back to visit not only Hong Kong but also other countries. So I think that the experience from many overseas markets is that the rebound is gradual and will take time, but it will rebound for sure.
Right, Fanny Young, the Executive Director of Travel Industry Council, said the tourism industry could rebound to 90% of pre-pandemic levels by third quarter 2023. Do you share her confidence?
Well, I think, I don't have a crystal ball. I hope that, we would rebound as quickly as possible. I hope that our economy will benefit from it. And I also hope that people will come to Hong Kong and tell great stories about Hong Kong. I think for the last 3 years, we've basically been very isolated, as you said just now. And people don't really understand actually how resilient and how vibrant Hong Kong continues to be. And so I would like to throw the doors open to as many visitors as possible from not only the mainland, but from all around the world, for them to come to Hong Kong, experience Hong Kong for themselves, see what we've been doing and what have we become, and then go back and tell all their friends and families through their social media posts and also through direct word of mouth.
Some people have said Hong Kong has been slow in terms of opening up and getting a sort of normalized life. Do you think this still make Hong Kong attractive? Because Hong Kong used to be the place to go, but now at least last 6 or 9 months, people used to be traveling other places. So are we still attractive?
I think we're still attractive. I think our government has tried very hard to strike a balance between the health and safety of many of the people in Hong Kong, especially the elderly. And for many people, we all want to travel faster, earlier, and sooner the better. But I think now that we've removed all the most of the travel restrictions, I think that we can re-normalize our lives again. And I'm very, very certain that even though we're a little bit later than many other countries, people still want to come to Hong Kong because we have many attractions and many reasons for them to come to Hong Kong.
YK, since you've been so optimistic, I'm sure the viewers are very excited. But for them to come, they have to come by air. Majority of people come by air. And I know that Cathay Pacific have been trying to bring up their capacity to a third of it by end of last year. And both Cathay Pacific and Hong Kong Express, our main carriers, say that they will bring back about 90%, hopefully by the end of this year. So is this going to hinder the actual development? Because it will be like 2 years, like 2024, before it's fully recovered in terms of capacity. How do you anticipate will be our issue?
Well, I think that both our own, local airlines, and that includes a new one called GBA Airlines, and of course there's Hong Kong Airlines as well, will bring back capacity as soon as they can because it's in their interest to do so, both to serve Hong Kong and also obviously, financially it makes sense for them to do so. And taking time to bring capacity up is not something that's unique to Hong Kong. It's the same trend from all over the world in other countries. other than our own home-based airlines, there are also a lot of international airlines from all the other countries that also fly to Hong Kong, and also our mainland-based carriers. So there's a huge number of airlines, a huge number of connections to all cities in the world, and I'm sure that they will be re-establishing those as soon as they can, obviously with the crewing and capacity in mind. I'm very confident that this will happen.
Right, just to make a quick amendment, it should be 70% by end of 2023. So it's still, to us, not the full capacity, isn't it? But you think it will be all right?
It will take time. I think capacity will increase as soon as it's physically to do so, if it's able to do so. So I think the airlines will do their best to increase capacity.
Right, and apart from that, let's look at the actual economic outlook. You know that the global economic activity, you being in business, is slowing down, and basically the inflation is rising worldwide, and the UK is kind of in recession. So how all these factors could affect Hong Kong, because we are pegged to the US dollar, so we are more expensive, quote unquote, compared to other cities. Do you think we'll still be attractive?
I think so. Now, the economic outlook definitely is a factor, and it will probably discourage certain travelers who are more on a budget from visiting places where the currency is high, like Hong Kong. But I think if we decide to travel to places like Paris, or to Rome or to Tokyo, we're not thinking about these places being the cheapest places to go to. In fact, we're going there because the experience is so desirable and so interesting. The food culture or the local environment is so much more fun that we will go anywhere and spend the money. So it's never about how much money, but it's how great value the experience is. And I think that Hong Kong can provide tremendous value. Now, to do so, we all need to work together. Right. I know that tourism is something that sometimes people feel, too many visitors and so on. And we'll try to work with the trade in the future to manage how the tourists spread out around Hong Kong, not to be focused and concentrated in any one particular area at any one time. Right. I think we have a host of different experiences other than shopping and dining, which are our core products, to attract visitors to all over Hong Kong. And we want to spread basically the tourism dollar to as many sectors of our economy as possible, and to give as many jobs and employment to people in Hong Kong as possible.
Right, Chairman, let's go to a break now, but stay with us, viewers. We will be right back. Welcome back. Dr. Y.K. Pang, the chairman of our tourism board, is with us this evening, and we have been talking about how prepared Hong Kong is for the return of tourists. So, Chairman, in the first half, we have touched on the snapshot of Hong Kong tourism, how important it is, and then you have showed great confidence in the gradual comeback for Hong Kong, and even with the capacity, you think it will be all right. So let's look at Hong Kong to look at how ready are we for opening up this border. So let's anticipate when the tourists arrive, and hopefully they'll be greeted by the same vibrant, if not more vibrant, Hong Kong. So do we have any new products or experience that your board has instilled for our tourists?
Well, Hong Kong actually has a lot of products and experiences for our tourists. During the pandemic, one of the things that we did was actually to entice our own population to be a tourist in Hong Kong. This is actually not an easy task, because people don't go from Sha Tin and stay in Central, or people who are in Central go and stay in Tai Po. That doesn't normally happen. It happens perhaps in Japan. From Osaka, you go to Tokyo, Tokyo go to Hokkaido, but not like in Hong Kong. But at its peak during our staycation promotions to help support the trade, about the hotels that were not doing quarantine actually had about 60% occupancy. And they achieved this by creating a combination of products and experiences. Other than the room and the dining, they had a lot of interesting experiences to make their hotels attractive, to the local Hong Kong visitors. And so, this is a product that the hotels have created, which they can now use to also attract visitors to Hong Kong in the future and make Hong Kong interesting. We have the M+ Museum, a new creation that only opened about, not only for a year. We have the Palace Museum, very recently opened. And we are going to have, the East Kowloon, Cultural Center. We have the Kai Tak Sports Park. These are all new facilities. Look at our waterfront, the waterfront walk on both Hong Kong Island and also on the Kowloon side. And these have been extended and also beautified. Disney has already new attractions. Our Hong Kong Disneyland has its own unique attractions, different from all other Disneylands in the world. Our Ocean Park Water World has also recently opened, and it's another interesting attraction. We have new cycling tracks, and we've also been upgrading many of our facilities. We have our CQ Center, and all the cultural performances all over Hong Kong. And so we have so much to offer to our visitors. And that's not to mention that the Tourism Board has been creating a lot of experiences, like the Old Town Central experience, walking through Central, understanding the history and the background of the place, our West Kowloon experience, our Sham Shui Po experience. So there's so much to offer, so much to do. And not only that, Hong Kong offers land, sea, and air. You can look at Hong Kong. You can go to Hong Kong's 360 and look, through the glass cabin at the lush foliage. And then, in another moment, you could be on the beach in Lantau, or you can actually be in a village on Lama Island, or you could be in the high rise of the jungle, of the concrete jungle in Hong Kong. There's so much to do and so much to offer.
Not to mention our country parks as well. It's very
Indeed.
attractive. Yes.
Yes.
So it looks like Hong Kong is very vibrant. But how can we maintain our attractiveness? I think all the places you have mentioned will, I'm sure, lure people coming back. But eventually, how can we maintain our attractiveness?
Yes, well, we have many experiences to offer. Just coming up, in the next few months, we have the Hong Kong Marathon, we have Clock and Flap, we will have, Art Basel, we have, Arts in Hong Kong, and of course, our very own Rugby Sevens. So these events are all things to lure people coming back again and again. And going forward, we will recreate many of the things that we have not been doing because of the pandemic. Our Wine and Dine Festival, our Winter Fest, our New Year Carnival, and many other things that we'll be doing, to really bring people back and make Hong Kong the events capital of the world. More than that, I think Hong Kong's core offerings of wine and dine, the experience, the food culture, the shopping culture is always going to be there. And because of our connectivity with the GBA being enhanced and increased, and those transport links being established, it will mean that in future, international visitors to Hong Kong can first come to Hong Kong, enjoy all that Hong Kong has to offer for a few days, and then Hong Kong would be the jumping point for them to make a side trip to Foshan, or maybe to Guangzhou, or to Zhuhai, or to Dongguan. All have their different attractions. After that, come back to Hong Kong, enjoy our food, maybe last-minute shopping, fly back out. Next time, come here, go to a different city. So we are offering a new dimension of experiences to visitors to Hong Kong.
Chairman, I'm sure when our CEO John Lee listen to what you have just mentioned, he'll be very thrilled, because one of the tasks he has really wanted Hong Kong to do is tell a good Hong Kong story. So how are you going to tell this story to the rest of the world?
Right.
I mean, we are good, but they have to know. They have to know that we're better than before.
Well, actually, that is a very important point, Eugene. And we actually have never stopped telling the Hong Kong story in these last few years of the pandemic. So on our website and also on a lot of our promotion materials, we have what is called 360 Moments in Hong Kong. A lot of very beautiful, high-resolution videos and images of Hong Kong, which whet the appetites of people who love Hong Kong. We have 600 Hong Kong fans all around the world who are really hardcore fans of Hong Kong, and they keep on talking about Hong Kong in their social media posts and also in the things that they sort of reminisce about Hong Kong. We have foreigners who live in Hong Kong who also make posts about their lives in Hong Kong, telling people the Hong Kong story. And now that travel restrictions are now basically removed, we will be making familiarization trips, for overseas visitors to come to Hong Kong. The agency, the travel trade, they will bring to Hong Kong to see for themselves. And we'll also be taking our own travel trade outside of Hong Kong to do trade shows all around the world to attract people to come to Hong Kong again.
Right, Chairman. There's also some initiatives I read in the news that there will be some air ticket giveaways. I mean, how is it coming along?
Yes, well, everyone has been asking about the air ticket giveaways. We'll be working very closely with the airport authority and the airlines, in the big ticket giveaway initiative. I think a lot of people in the travel trade are highly interested. We will leverage these tickets to bring the maximum number of people into Hong Kong at different times of the year. And these tickets actually are for not only the international community, but also for the mainland as well. And so we'll pace and we'll work with the travel trade and the airline and the airport authority to ensure that we get the most leverage from these tickets. Right.
Another very important part of Hong Kong is what we call MICE. I mean, meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions.
Yes.
And this has been, your figures show that the MICE visitors has shown almost 25% more than the overnight visitors in Hong Kong per capita. So as you if you have watched our show, we talk about Singapore is one of our main friendly competitor, and they've actually signed up 2 agreements with 2 leading global event organizers. So we are really up for very tough competitions. So how are you going to help us to making sure to entice them back to Hong Kong? Especially, we had a lot of shows, like a jewelry show, that has been stopped because of the actual pandemic.
Well, MICE has always been a very important part of the Tourism Board's initiatives, because as you said just now, convention visitors spend easily 25% more than a normal visitor, and that's on top of the spending that's done by the organizers in terms of dinners and social events. So we think that this is a very important area. And yes, not only Singapore, actually, in fact, all countries in the region are competing for this very valuable MICE business. But I think that we have many ingredients to ensure Hong Kong is successful again in MICE. We have our airport. We have the connectivity with so many destinations from around the world through direct non-stop flights. We have our convention facilities, which are so near all the key business centers of Hong Kong. And we have a very, very well-oiled machine, which is able to organize conventions and conferences and exhibitions at very short notice, take the last one down, put the next one up. So the efficiency of Hong Kong, I think the vibrancy of Hong Kong, and the fact that Hong Kong is on the doorstep of the GBA means that a convention or an exhibition delegate, after visiting the exhibition or the convention in Hong Kong, is able then to then make a side trip into the GBA to extend their business visit. So I think that all of these ingredients really make Hong Kong a very strong contender for MICE. Already, we have actually in the last few months won a number of new conventions to Hong Kong, including the WOW Summit, which is a Web 3.0 summit, first time in Asia. We also have from 2024 to 2027 the RISE conference, a very big innovation tech conference coming back to Hong Kong again. We have in your own area, the Asia Pacific Dental Conference, and a number of also biotech and also genetic conferences coming to Hong Kong.
Right, Chairman, in the last part of the show, I want to ask you one direct question. You have mentioned the GBA being right at the doorstep, we're in the mainland right next door, which all give Hong Kong the extra niche compared to other cities. But I still remember when we have many local Hong Kongers were not impressed when we have a high number of mainlanders coming to Hong Kong with buying the milk powder. So have we learned a lesson, and what do we have to do to face this new Hong Kong, new chapter?
Yes, I think the Tourism Board works very closely with the trade, the retail industry, and also the government in trying to spread the load of visitors to Hong Kong. Yes, people will come to Hong Kong to buy products which they find not available in their own countries, not necessarily from the mainland, but even in other countries, people come to buy. I think, in fact, at the beginning of the pandemic, Hong Kong people actually went overseas to buy a lot of masks in other countries too. So this is something that people just do naturally. I think our retail industry is very turned on. I think they understand who wants what, when and where, and they are very keyed into ensuring that the logistics is available to provide what the visitors want in the numbers that they want, in addition to ensuring that local demand is met.
Right, thank you, YK, for pointing out both the importance of the tourism sector and its upcoming challenges. With all the new initiatives to be implemented and all of us being good hosts to welcome our visitors, Hong Kong will be on her way to recovery. Have a brilliant 2023 and good night.